This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
So I don't know who had a worse time this weekend, the Kansas City Chiefs or the Grand Rapids Griffins fans. It's a tough...
Or Drake.
Yeah, honestly. A lot of rough weekends for a lot of people. And, you know, when you have a team that's still second in the division, can you be like, is it really that rough? But when you watch Friday's game and you're like, holy crap, back-to-back-to-back shutouts, yeah, it hurts. Like, I thought it was going to be another weekend of us just posting Toledo Walleye goals on our social media pages again. I thought our Facebook fans might have thought we don't exist anymore because we only post goals on there. I don't flood it with highlights like we do with the other pages because it's a lot harder to do. But we hadn't posted a Griffins goal in over a week.
We were still here. We were still here, guys.
We still exist. At least Saturday proved that. But, oh, my God.
I think my favorite tweet I seen was the prayer candle circle thing.
You're welcome for that. I was trying everything I could. Maybe I should have just had a Griffins goal instead of going player specific. I don't know. Never done it before, but had to try something.
That was well executed.
Well,
I would have failed miserably at that
because they didn't score.
Yeah, it was well executed in the look of it, just not the actual result. But anyways, welcome to the Hockeytown West podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Travis.
And we will try not to make this episode doom and gloom completely, but the Griffins are on a 4-game losing streak as we record in this episode, and 3 of those games were shutouts.
First time in history.
Season over?
Season's not over. Let me preface the whole episode with the season's not over, but there's concerns. And last week, Nick is panicking. Let's just preface it with that. Nick is in full panic mode. If I ask Nick how he's doing today, he's panicking. The panic button broke on his desk.
Does he need
it's
his
broken.
Xanax?
Nick needs a lot of things right now to calm down, which hopefully this episode we can calm him down a little bit because it is not the end of the world if you're a Griffins fan. I'm going to tell you that now.
He's pacing already. I can see it.
His mind is pacing, but it's always pacing.
It really is. I'll feel better after Wednesday.
Hopefully.
Yeah, not talking to you guys. Just after Wednesday, I'll feel better about the team. After practice, I'll be able to give you an idea where I'm at.
And if you've listened to the show before, you know there's kind of a structure we usually follow when we recap games, and we're kind of throwing that out the window with this one, just because it has to be different. And if you're new here, not all episodes are like this, and they're not all as down. And again, the season's not over. I'll probably say that 30 times through this episode. The season's not over. But there's concerns. And when you go into Milwaukee after the All-Star break, a well-rested team, a team that was battling a terrible flu bug for the first 2 shutouts we referenced, that was against Colorado at home before the All-Star break. A terrible flu bug going through the room. You're hoping that worked its way out of everybody's system by the time they come back. And you just expect more from Grand Rapids in this game against a Milwaukee team that is depleted. Yeah. They have 6 or 7 call-ups to the NHL at this point in time. They lost their leading scorer through waivers when he was sent back down from Nashville to Milwaukee. Minnesota picked him up. And we kind of went into that game thinking there's a chance here. And you can say the Griffins roster is depleted too, right? You're missing Elmer Soderblom. You're missing Amadeus Lombardi. You're missing some guys there, but you're not missing 7 guys like Milwaukee is. God, it felt like we were missing 7, 8, 9, 10. Like this first game on Friday, a 3-0 loss to Milwaukee right out of the All-Star break was, if you could see Nick in that game during our live stream, it was just full panic.
Yeah.
Which, thank you to everyone that tuned into the live stream we did for that game. Unfortunately, the result wasn't great, but we had a blast doing it. We appreciate all the positive feedback from it. We will be doing more of those. We've talked about doing one this weekend. If we do, we will post it on the social pages to keep you updated. So stay tuned there to see if we end up getting to do another one while the Griffins are on the road this weekend. Work schedules might get in the way. But this 3-0 game, man, the Griffins just never got into it. Like, it never felt like there was moments, there was flashes of they're getting there. But Milwaukee was able to stifle every good opportunity they had every single time it popped up. I mean, Ozzy Weisblatt scores for Milwaukee. DeLeo gets his first goal of the season, and Rolston gets his 8th. And those were the goals. Milwaukee converted on 1 of the 5 power plays. Griffins failed to convert on 4 of them. Griffins outshoot Milwaukee 35-22. And if you ask on the broadcast Saturday, they talked about Friday's game where the Griffins outclassed and outplayed Milwaukee. Yes and no. There was moments that we definitely did, but they couldn't. Let's be real. A bounce didn't go any way for the Griffins in this game. The puck luck was not in their favor at all. And neither was the officiating, but I'll get there later. But puck luck is lacking again, which I felt like, Nick, you and I had moments last season where we talked about puck luck lacking quite a bit for this team, even during good stretches.
I mean, we kind of talked about it on the live stream, is that I felt last year we got bullied a lot, right? And we didn't really see that a whole lot this season until this game. I feel like we got bullied. I mean, you see Brogan Rafferty took a 5-minute major for fighting. Brogan Rafferty took a 5-minute fighting. Like, that's out of character. That's out of ordinary for the Griffins. I feel like it was tough to get going with this with the game. I mean, the first minute in, we're taking a slashing penalty, Joe Snively. So I mean, it's just like the rhythm, the puck luck, like we just couldn't get it. And I don't think Matt Murray really did a whole lot of like. I don't think he stole this game.
I think he stole this game.
He came up big when he needed to, because there was a few chances where the Griffins could have easily had 3 or 4 on the board.
We got goalied in this one at the end of the day. We did. Matt Murray plays extremely well against Grand Rapids. Bob was talking about his record on the broadcast. It's like 6-2, I think, against Grand Rapids. He's really good against us.
Do you think he got lucky, though? Or do you think he was in the right spots?
Both. I want to go back to your point on being bullied, because yes, last season we have an episode titled "We Got Bullied by Milwaukee." Ironically, this is the same team we're talking about. There's one guy in Milwaukee that starts it all, and that's Navrin Mutter, and he's a wrecking ball out there for Milwaukee. As soon as the momentum started to go Grand Rapids' way, he gets on the ice, throws 3, 4, 5 big hits. And there's no response. And that fighting moment with Rafferty there, that was with Mutter. And it was frustration finally boiled over. I think Mutter gave him a cross check. Raff gave one back. Raff punched him in the face with his glove on, and then chaos ensues after that. But Mutter single-handedly bullied this team.
And he's really taken over the spot that Zach LaRue had last year.
Yeah, 100%. And this is the first hot take I have in this episode for you, because I'm sure we'll have a lot of them. And I brought this up to you guys separately in our group chat. We know Austin Watson has a 1-game suspension looming over his head if he gets one more fighting major. And Coach mentioned that he jokingly said they would deploy that strategically. Effing deploy it.
That was the game.
I think that was the game to do it, but I also feel like he's playing more of a cautious game right now. Not mixing it up as much as he usually does. He still mixes it up to an extent, but I feel like he's playing a more cautious game because he can't go out there and drop the gloves right now because he won't be able to play the next game. Let's just get it over with. Rip the Band-Aid off. Like, why are we waiting? I don't understand.
Q Hunter?
Hunter, this is where we talk about roles in this team, where we don't know if the guys fully know their roles or not yet. And I don't think that's Hunter's role this year. He's out there to be a disturber, mix things up a little bit, play aggressive on the forecheck, which he's been good at lately. But yeah, I mean, in this game, if you need a guy to go drop the gloves and you don't want Austin Watson to do it, Hunter should have done it, not Brogan Rafferty. What the hell are we doing?
I mean, you don't have the tap out king and William Lagesson to do it.
That's true. We are missing that piece too. I forgot to mention him being one of the guys that we're missing.
I could suggest Josiah Didier. He was the guy that did it all last year for us. I mean, he's still collecting penalties like crazy, but I mean, you could see him dropping the gloves.
I mean, I played, and I didn't play at a relatively high level. I only played travel, but I can understand where you get to a point where you just like, all right, enough's enough. I'm just gonna do this. So I mean, that's also where it's like a credit to Rafferty for doing it. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
you know,
Like
all
he
right,
shouldn't
you
have
know
been in
what?
that position.
You know what? Like, excuse my language, but it, I'll just do it myself. Like, it's just kind of
Where he was at.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Like, you know, like they said, you know, you got to kind of have a leash on Watson. So it's like, well, if you're hell with it, I'll do it.
But why do we need the leash right now? Like, if you remember, because we had feedback from the coaches talk earlier this season that Dan Watson did with season ticket holders, and he said the team was going to be fighting a lot. Like he wanted that fighting spirit within this team. And ever since that suspension's been looming over Austin Watson's head, I don't know if we've seen a real chuck 'em fight from anybody on this team since that game where he got his 9th. I can't think of one.
I can't think of it. And I honestly only feel like the person that has actually been like really fighting has been Watson. I don't feel like you've seen it through Dids. You haven't seen it through. I mean, Laguson's been up with Detroit for the last month, it feels like. And Hunter hasn't really thrown him as much either. So I mean, those
And
are.
you can say Dom Shine, but that's not his role on this team. Clearly this year, that is not his role anymore.
Shiner's been up too, so like I get that point. And maybe
That was only for a couple games, though.
But
maybe
still,
he
like
does.
that's not his role. I don't want him to be that guy because he hasn't been expected to be that guy under Dan Watson. And
But
look what
sometimes
he's
you
doing
just-
offensively.
Sometimes you just got to do it, man. Like,
I don't think he wants to be that guy though. Anymore.
he might not want to be, but look, I mean, look at the video that's blowing up for us. He 3-punched a guy out. Like,
Could you imagine the crowd if he gets into a tussle this week, like the whole Van Andel will explode just because Dom Shine, you know.
screw it. Give me Nate Danielson going full Pavel Datsuk, Corey Perry. Like,
We'll talk about that with the next game.
the most unsung guy to do it. Like, sometimes you just need that guy that's so off the wall not to do it, and it just sparks the whole room.
It's
Sebastian
tough.
Cossa?
Yeah, right.
be a spark.
That feed families. It's tough to be in this position, right? But I actually remember shortly after we recorded the episode, we just got bullied by Milwaukee. We went on a freaking tear after we went through a really rough stretch. And I feel like that's where we're at. That's why I say the season's not over. Good teams go through bad stretches. They learn a lot about themselves. You learn how to overcome adversity. And this helps you down the road in the playoffs, especially because the intensity gets turned up 6 more notches in the playoffs. But you can't just let a division rival like Milwaukee bully you like that. And it's kind of embarrassing. And again, in this game, they outplayed them. We got goalied. But Navin Mutter running around like a chicken with his head cut off, just beating guys into the boards. Someone's got to just say, screw it.
The problem I have with this is it's not even Milwaukee's first team. This is the second time we've played them with like multiple players out of the lineup. This is not the same Milwaukee team as last year, who ran away with the Central Division from almost beginning to end last year. And that's my problem with it, is that it's not the same team. I don't know why we played scared. It seems like maybe that was the issue, is we still hold them to this higher spot. Like mentality wise, yes, we've been in first place almost all season, but I think mentality part is like we still hold Milwaukee higher than us, and we just haven't played to that level.
Would you say it's like a little brother feeling almost? Like,
Because this team has played so much better when they're from, and they've said it too. It's like last year, what Dan Watson said this too, is like last year we were playing to get to that point. And now everybody, like the target's on our back because we've been the top team. So I feel like this team needs to, it's good for them to be down second place now, right? Texas passing us over the weekend. It's good for them to, okay, the target's not on us. We need to fight. We always play better from behind. When our back's up against the wall, we usually play better, right? If we're down a goal, we usually are able to come back, except for this weekend. Sickness and injuries and call-ups, like I just hate hearing the excuses at this point. Like Dan said, it's next man up. We got to fill our roles. We got to play our spots. And like the guys in Milwaukee are doing that. Why aren't we? Like,
are we asking too much out of guys that? Well, you know, next man up is the most important thing, but I mean, you got guys like rookie Andre Becker doing third line center, which that wasn't the plan for this season. You have a fourth line, which, again, I've been flamed for it before, but I'll say it. They were one of the best lines on the ice for the Griffins this weekend yet again when it came to offensive opportunities.
I even said that live stream. I was like, because I didn't get to watch the whole game because we were doing the live stream and I was covering Toledo. But like when that Toledo game would go to intermission and next thing you know, I got the Griffins on, it's like, it seemed like every time Seider, and I forget who played Friday night with him. I believe it was Hannes and Johannes, right? Was it
Friday night? Yes, it was. Yes, those three together Friday night.
It seemed like they were in the offensive zone almost every time they were on the ice. So at that point, just throw your fourth line out. Like if that's the line going, put them on the ice. Like so you got to send a message.
Where's the message going to come from? And maybe it is that fourth line, but there's got to be a message. And again, I'm going to preface all throughout the episode, the season's not over. We might sound like it, but the season's not over. It's just frustrating. It's just really frustrating at this point with a team with this much talent on it, even with a couple of guys called up, to have games like this. And at this point, when we're talking about this game and you're talking 3 shutouts in a row, that's embarrassing. First time in franchise history. It's embarrassing. It really is. And every guy in that locker room is just as fired up about it as we are. They want to figure it out. The guys hate to lose. But right now, we just can't seem to find the recipe. And I'll talk about it more with Saturday, but I was really disappointed with the way this lineup was structured. In our exclusive episode, we talked through a lineup change that would be changes up and down the lineup. And I still think to this moment that lineup could change things quite a bit.
Yeah, because they rolled something different this week. They put Snively, Danielson, and Watson together. Dropped Mazur to the second line with Dries and Shine, with Shine coming back. And then Gettinger, Becker, Doucette.
I think you need to create an identity line.
What is our identity?
It's the best question right now.
Well, if you want to, I'll say this, if you want to be a team that they said at the beginning of the year wants to muck it up a little bit, give me a line of Seider, Watson, and Johannes together. Make that your third line and just go. You can just tell them, look, we're going to try this for a night. Go out there and just hit anything that moves. Play physical. You got 2 guys on that line that can play physical. Seider has already shown that he's got some offensive touch lately in the gritty areas. You got 2 other gritty guys on the ice. Put a line out there that's tough to play against. It's just going to go out there and bang you. That gives you some energy. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. You want to come out of
idea.
You want to come out of a streak. You got to try something.
And you might glare at that going, Austin Watson third in scoring on the team, putting him on the third line. He's got 1 point in 7 games. When I say he's playing a more cautious game, he's playing a more cautious game. There's no other way to look at it.
That point was an empty net goal.
And he was on a nice point streak before that too. A really nice one. And that suspension looms over him, and here we are. And I want to say that point streak he was on a 3-game point streak. It was that Cleveland weekend when all of our friends were in town. It was a great weekend. But that's where he hit number 9. And since then, 1 point. Scored 2 goals in the All-Star game. We can't count those towards the point, though.
I wish we could.
I wish we could, too. But
Do you need me to work on a lineup for this show?
I always love when Travis is a lineup, so why not?
I'll start thinking here while you guys have a discussion.
Sounds good to me, but it goes back to the cautious point. And I don't think he's the only player playing cautious. It seems like everybody is. There's a lot of hesitation when you're passing the puck, shooting the puck. There's so much hesitation right now. And Nick, you bring it up almost every episode we've talked about recently. Those games in Manitoba, that game against Rockford, the quick, crisp passing, the quick decision-making with the puck on your stick. We haven't seen it since then. And it's unfortunate because I feel like that was our team's identity. Quick transitions, quick puck movement, get them before they can even think about what you're doing. And we just haven't been able to establish that at all.
And they do it. You saw it against Rockford too. Like that's how they were able to beat Rockford and Chicago. And like those are fast teams. Like
Very fast, especially in the
coaches will tell you.
transition.
So it's just like that Manitoba weekend still just like sticks out to me like a sore thumb because we lost both those games. But the way they were playing, they played really well through those games, even though they were losses. So that's where I'm like, I just struggle with this. Like, I don't know what's going on because they had such a break. Yes, they were sick the week prior. So I understand 2 games. Like you're gonna lose those 2 games, whatever. We don't do well when we're sick. But then to come out and just lay an egg against Milwaukee, like it's just there's something more to it, and that's why I'm hitting the panic button because it's just this isn't. There's a bigger scope of this too, because like I even went back through this week today for the record for the month, and like October they were 6-2, November 7-4, December 6-6, January 6-5, in February they're 0-3. They have 8 games left, and
let's be real, Amadeus Lombardi is a big piece of that, right? Missing him since then it's a huge piece.
Somebody's got to step up. Like that's what we keep saying is. They've got the talent on this team. They've got to step up. And I understand too. Like Becker isn't supposed to be our 3rd line center. He might be playing above his weight. I get that, but and we just got Mazur back. Like somebody's got to pull their weight. Like there's no way Ammo was pulling these other 2 guys as wingers up with him, right? Like.
Right. Even without him in that stretch, December and January, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. And this is starting to feel like it's really bad. And the only other piece missing outside of that, yes, William Lagesson, but also Elmer. But you can't tell me those 2 pieces outside of Ammo changed this whole roster this dramatically. Like that's the thing I don't understand. I know Elmer's a wrecking ball and can make great passes and he's good with the puck, but there should be a guy in the lineup that can step in and fill that role. And there hasn't. And it goes back to the question we asked last week. Do the players on this roster know their role? And it's a question I plan on asking in postgame this week. Maybe not as direct as that, but at the same time, like it's a question that's got to be asked because we've heard it from so many successful teams and players in the past. We've interviewed champions and every single one of them says, yeah, the guys on the team knew their role and they played their role perfectly every night. They didn't play outside their role and they didn't underperform in their role. They knew their role and went and delivered. And I just feel like this roster doesn't know its role with these pieces missing. Maybe with the pieces all together they do. But when those pieces disappear, the roles are jumbled.
My question too, like that I had too on this is, are we pulling up the wrong players from Toledo?
No, because we pulled up Carson Bantle when he played fantastic.
You'd have to sign somebody else to a PTO is kind of the end of the day. You can only recall one without using a PTO.
And you see these other teams are picking different players that we're not calling up. So that's why I wonder.
But they're also not playing really when they're up.
It's true. And no, Hawk is not going to sign a PTO in Grand Rapids. And Toledo fans won't let us have him.
Come on,
he said he would do it if they weren't playing. He'd do Waddy a solid, but
yeah. That's not the answer we can look for, right? We can't count on Toledo to bail us out of this. Like that's not the answer. It's guys in this roster stepping up and playing their game and playing to their identity. Every player has their own identity. And when the roster is constructed correctly, all the identities can mesh and magic can happen. And I feel like this team has the players to do it. We have extremely talented players on this team. But they're just not playing to their identity. They're playing this scrambled identity that's become the Grand Rapids Griffins. And yes, that comes from missing pieces, sure. But at the same time, most teams can figure that out after a couple of games.
I mean, we were going into Christmas break and last year, like, oh yeah, this team's going to take a minute to gel. And I just don't feel like this team is gelled. I mean, again, like bigger sample size, we're 12-11, right? In 2 months. These last 2 months, 12-11. It's not good. I just don't feel like that's good enough. And that's 2 months of them playing. Yes, you've had some call-ups, but still, the overall atmosphere of this team, like they should have come together by now. They
I
should have
agree.
came together faster. They should like Wadi said that to us in the offseason. Like I've got 1 year in already. I'm here. I'm familiar with the players. We know the system. We're bringing in a couple guys. They didn't have a huge roster turnover. Well, yeah, I don't feel like they had a huge roster turnover.
I feel like they brought in better pieces than the pieces they lost.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
I mean, outside of like your Simon Edvinsons and Marco Casper, like obviously those are huge pieces to lose in the offseason. But it just doesn't add up, man.
There's something. That's what I said. There's a disconnect. I feel like the vibes have been off, and that's why I've been hitting the panic button for the last 3-4 weeks because
I still won't hit the panic button.
it's
But
a
you remember
bigger-
2 seasons ago, I thought they might make the playoffs and like their worst season ever. But that's just me.
it's that Wolves game that was 8-7 or something like that. Is when
Dude,
you're
that
like,
was the greatest game
you're
I've
like,
ever witnessed in person.
They're gonna go, Nick, and I'm like, bro, just give up.
That's still one of the greatest hockey games I've ever been to in my life.
Just
Outside of that game against Milwaukee in the playoffs last year with Bergie just being clutch, that was also up there as well. But that 8-7 win over Chicago with a crazy comeback, that was, God, that would feed families if we saw one of those right now.
yeah,
I'd love that because that would mean we scored 8 goals. That's more than we've scored this month.
For 3 games, yeah, for this month. Jeez. But I mean, I look at the games that are coming up too. Is like we play Iowa. Iowa's near the bottom. The series right now against them is 2. We're up 2 wins and 1 loss. Lehigh series is 2-0. We played them earlier in the season. Texas, we play. They're ahead of us now, and we have not done well against Texas. We're 1-3, and then Springfield we've beat 2-1. So I mean, it's so we've got 1 game against Springfield, and we've won that game 2-1. So I mean, we have potentially some wins that could be coming up, some opponents that we could play, but again, this is a different part of the season, so it still makes me optimistic with who we're playing against, but I'm still cautious to say this team is on the rise. I kind of like how I did that.
Jesus. I'll talk more about the upcoming schedule after we talk about Saturday's game. I definitely want to talk about those games coming up because I have feelings about them.
You have feelings?
I do sometimes. But yeah, man, this just to cap off the Friday game before Travis gives us this lineup here. It looks worse on paper. Yes, we did outplay. I do believe that we outplayed Milwaukee. I do believe Matt Murray stole this game from Milwaukee, but Milwaukee also played to their identity, and when they needed to get rough and tough, they got rough and tough. I won't talk about officiating in this one. I'll save that for Saturday's game, but it wasn't great in Friday's game. Even the Griffins were unhappy with one of the referees in this game. Like, it's just not how I wanted to come out of the break. Ruined the vibe of the live stream. At least Toledo kept us up in that one with their win that night. But I don't know. Travis, you got that lineup?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you guys a question. Before Dominic Shine was called up, what was the best line going?
Shine, Snively, Dries, maybe, or
You
had
just hit it square on the head. That was the line in Manitoba that was rolling. So the way I have this right now, if it was me and you need a spark, I would put Snively with Dries and Shine as your first line.
Okay.
I would go Doucette with Danielson and Mazur as your second line. I would go Johannes, Seeger, Watson as your third line. And then I would go Gettinger, Becker, Hannes, Rykovsky, a scratch with Campbell. And your call-ups are Lagesson, Elmer, and your IR is Ammo.
Hired. Hired is the lineup guy every night.
You got to get a spark, right? Sometimes you just got to look, like for Watson as a prime example. Yeah, he's had a great year offensively, but he's struggled recently. So go out there, put some big bodies on the ice together. Watson, Johannes, Seeger. Seeger's been one of their best players recently in the net front area, scrappy. If you look at most of his goals are right in front of the net.
Yeah.
Yep.
Johannes, I mean, when he's going, he provides a heavy forecheck. Watson also can provide that heavy forecheck, but he's shown he can put points up down here. I mean, your second line is all skill with Doucette, Danielson, Mazer. I mean, that's pretty well. Like
that second line excites me.
And then your first line was your best line before the break when they played in Manitoba. So you have your line that was providing a lot of offense. Doucette gives you a very, I kind of want to say blue collar, because he plays, for his size, he plays pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And then like Danielson, I mean, he's got vision. Doucette had 100 points in junior. Mazer can score. I mean, you got your facilitator, can also play pretty well defensively. Then your fourth line is just kind of a mix-up, right? Like
as it usually is.
Like you said, you didn't really expect Becker to be your third-line center. Well, Seider, in my opinion, from what little bit I've watched, has been better than Becker. So at that point, give the kid a look at the third line. Seider was their best player. Seider was a part of their best line on Friday. Like, he scored Saturday.
Point of just rewarding the guys that are doing well during this rough stretch, and I think you have to. Like, Becker's not a bad player, but like we said, I think he's just being over-asked for what he can deliver right now. He's a rookie. He's been playing power play minutes now, too, on top of all that. So playing a bigger role in the team, playing power play minutes. Not that he's been bad on that power play. He's great at moving the puck, but at the same time, yeah, I think you take some weight off him. It's just like I've said before, and I believe, even Coach Watson hit on it at one point. We had Danielson rolling way too many minutes a night and said they were going to back off of that. I don't think they've backed off of it. I think he's still playing the same amount of minutes every night. But you can't throw these rookies in there and expect them to do that. No top pick, all this, da-da-da. He's got to find that rhythm. And this might sound mean, I'm sorry, but rewarding players with 7-game dry streaks here with no points by playing top line still, that's just not the answer to me. I think you got to give other guys a shot.
I just think you got to go back to the well that was like pumping well when they were playing, when they came back against Manitoba, like Snively, Dries, and Shine. That was the line that basically won them those 2 games. I mean,
yeah.
No, you're good, Nick. Like,
I like the idea too of splitting up Danielson and Watson. I know like Austin Watson was kind of the protector, but I'd like to see like
get him with some guys that are high skill.
Yeah, and not that
no offense to Watson.
No offense to Watson. I just feel like Watson was kind of like the training wheels for Nate, right? To like, hey, we're gonna transition you into the pro league. We're gonna transition you. We're gonna help you out. We're gonna have this guy. He's gonna have your back. He can put up points as well. Let's now take that off and separate the two and see how Nate does with somebody like Mazer, because that's somebody that they could potentially see together up in Detroit. And Deuce is a very good offensive skill. Like in the queue, he led the queue in points at one point. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was like one of the top guys in the queue, which is an aggressively offensive league to its own. But those 3, I feel, could do really well together. And I like that lineup there, Travis. And I think it's something that it's time to kind of, let's take the training wheels off. Let's see how he does. I think these 3 could do really well. And then if you could get those 2 lines going, like, and I apologize because for me, it's all visual. So when you were talking, I don't remember who you put on the 3rd or 4th, but we're going to go with that they're great. But I think those 2, you're going to get offense. Like you can't put a line out there to shut down both those lines, right?
Well, your third line's essentially your shutdown line with Johannes, with Seider, and Watson.
I'm talking about the other team. Like they're not going to be able to put that same. They can't double shift that line to shut down line 1 and 2. And I think that's where you're going to be able to kind of see those weak points and exploit those.
And I love what you said there with the training wheels, because it is time to take them off. And if you're going to separate them, you can't keep Nate on the first line at this point if you're going to separate those 2. That's just not how that's going to work. And I love the idea of that first line being the line that was rolling. You put these other 3 incredible talents together in Mazer, Danielson, and Deuce. Like, just let them see what they can do. It's just like when you put Amadeus Lombardi and Doucette and Hannes together. See what happens. No one knew what that was going to bring, but it brought results until Ammo got injured. And it's just time to try something new. And you couldn't have said it better, Nick. Training wheels off. I know it's young, it's early in his pro career, but it's time.
And I think Mazur is kind of ramped back up to game speed now too, and like it's going to take him a while. And I think right now with how he played this weekend, I think he is closer to game shape than we'll probably ever see. I think he's right there. I think it's a perfect time to match these two guys up together as well, because Mazur's just getting back into it. Put Nate with him. Let's see how he goes. Let him roll. Let's get some goals. We need some scoring.
Here's an idea. This is just a hypothetical. You got a guy in Toledo with 15 goals. Carson Banel up, maybe Ryklowski down. Just to find a rhythm. Like, I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
I mean, look what it did for Hunter. You sent him down. He got points down there, and he's been incredible on the forecheck up here since he came back.
His play,
he has been a better player. He's not getting points,
right?
But he's been a better player than he was before he went down.
His play off the puck improved dramatically.
Yes. Confidence. You got to have some, and I don't think Ryklowski has it right now, unfortunately. And I fully support that decision to make that move. Like we've said it before, and we'll say it again about Toledo. Everybody who gets sent down there in this organization, no one takes it as a slam. No one's like, oh, they think I'm a bad player. No, you get sent there to find your game. You get surrounded by true professionals down there that are going to welcome you with open arms and get you rolling. And you're going to play a ton.
Yeah.
You don't think like Ryklowski gets sent down and ends up, let's say, second line with Craggs and whoever else. You don't think they're just going to feed him while he's there? Like, come on.
Yeah,
it would boost his confidence up, get him back up here and get him rolling, because he's shown flashes of a really good player. It's just been ice cold for him lately, unfortunately.
And to go back to with Mazur, he's played like 6-7 games. He's got 3 points, so he's just under half a point per game right now since he came back.
He's been back.
Yeah, we were shut out for 3 of those. So I mean,
right.
That's
you take those.
Pain.
I mean, honestly, if you take those 3 out, he's got 3 points in 4 games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say, like you said, Nick, he's kind of found that rhythm again. But I think if you got him with a guy like Nate that can facilitate with Nate's vision and passing, and then you throw Doucette in with that, like Doucette's no slouch. He almost had 20 goals in the Coast as a rookie last year. He's shown that he can play at this level. I mean,
when he gets playing time too, he produces.
Yeah, I would give it a look. I mean, hell, you could even throw Cross up there if you wanted to, just for a different look. I mean, I'm just throwing ideas.
You took Deuce and gave him more playing time, and he went on a 5-game point streak.
Yeah,
and then he got shipped right back down to the lineup again. And I think that's just mismanagement on our part. I don't think that's how it should have been handled.
Don't put us into this.
The Grand Rapids part. Sorry, but I do want to talk about Mazur because, like you said, he has been playing well. I want to go to Saturday's game. But before we do that, we got to do an ad break. So we'll do that, come back, recap Saturday's game, and I'm sure we'll have more conversations about things that are just disappointing us right now. The 24-25 NHL season still has that new car smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And welcome back. All right, let's talk about Saturday's game because at least there were some goals from the Grand Rapids Griffins in this one, right? That was a positive here. So quick rundown of who scored in this one because the Griffins obviously lost this one too. We said in the beginning it's a 4-game losing streak. Yeah, they lost this one to Milwaukee too. Lost this one 4-3. Scoring did get started by Grand Rapids though, and God, what a sigh of relief this goal was. Gabriel Seeger with his 7th of the season from Cross Hannes and Antituamisto, not only breaking the Griffins' goalless streak they had going there. Cross Hannes snapped an ugly point streak as well. And I mean, let's be real. This goal is just good cleanup by Seider in front of the net here, picking up the rebound and getting it in there. Second goal of the game in the first period there as well by Carter Mazur, his second of the season, his first goal back from injury. And just like Nick said there in that motion, chef's kiss, a beautiful shot from the left face-off circle. Just, it was just a great play. Exactly what you'd expect from Carter Mazur, showing us that he is definitely feeling in full game shape now. Like this was the game that kind of solidified that. Dom Shine and William Volinder get the assists on that one. Milwaukee responds with back-to-back-to-back goals because we let them hang around in this game, and they capitalized easily. They had 3 power play goals in that stretch, just absolutely ugly penalty killing from the Grand Rapids Griffins in this one. Joe Snively does add a goal there, the 16-minute mark, if that's what my screen says properly here. 16th goal of the season for him from Antti Tuomisto and Brogan Rafferty, giving us hope that the Griffins were not out of this one yet, but with the goalie pulled, they could not capitalize and ended up dropping this one. Outshoot Milwaukee 26-20, go 0 for 3 on the power play. Milwaukee goes 3 for 5 on the power play. And this is just, I don't know where to start.
Special teams lost them the game.
Oh, big time. We'll talk about special teams in a minute here. It was frustrating because the Griffins came out and had that 2-0 lead, and they blew it.
It's
which
the
is
most
super
dangerous
frustrating.
lead to have in any sports is a 2-0 lead.
Sure. But at the same time, you can't blow this one. And what the Grand Rapids Griffins do, and this is what Bob Kaiser pointed out multiple times in the broadcast, they let Milwaukee hang around in this game and keep themselves in it. And Milwaukee just kept clawing back into it. I will say in this one, the officiating was extremely frustrating. Hunter Johannes takes a high stick early in the game. It draws blood. Ref verifies the blood and goes, yep, 2 minutes. I've never seen a 2-minute high sticking call with blood present. That was a wild one for me. And again, like I mentioned, there was some frustrating calls Friday, and this was early in the game Saturday, and that was a frustrating one. You had Turner Ottenbright, which if you listened to this podcast for a while, when he played with the Iowa Wild, he was one of my most hated players on that roster because he's just a big whiny baby. And that's just kind of what he does. He goes out there and hits people, makes dumb plays, puts his team in bad positions most of the time. And in this one, goes and gets a cheap shot on Andre Becker, which is just completely unnecessary. But the highlight of the game outside of the Griffins finally scoring goals for me in this one was Ottenbright gets a 10-minute misconduct in this one. They're skating him off the ice. Nate Danielson skating in his direction and gives him a little shot, which is not something you see from Nate Dogg very often. And that right there at least told me there's still some vibes in the lineup and like there's still some passion there. And it kind of just made me feel a little better. But yes, Nate took a penalty, unwarranted penalty, honestly. Yes, he took a shot at the guy, but you see that shot happen 10 times a night in most games and it's not called. And let's be real. The linesman was skating Ottenbright from the penalty box across the ice, saw Nate Danielson coming that direction, and no one thought to maybe intercept him. They just let it happen and then penalized Nate for it. There's my thoughts on that. But that was a good moment there in the game, one of the little highlights we had. But yeah, man, special teams lost this one. Matt Murray didn't play in this one, so we can't blame it on him. It was Magnus Krona in net for the Milwaukee Admirals. But before just going all negative, Carter Mazur, his goal in this game, fantastic. It's an absolute beauty. I thought he had an assist in this game too. It must have changed after the game. He had a goal and an assist in this game when we originally were posting about it, but it must have taken a point away from him, unfortunately. But Maze looks back. I can definitively say Carter Mazur's back, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's the big thing for him that he had spoke about earlier was just like getting those accounting stats for his mental, for his confidence. And we broke it down. He's got like he's got 3 points in 6 games? Was that right?
Yeah.
And seven, and we were shut out in 3 of those. So like he's almost a point per game player right back to where he was at. The goal was freaking nasty. I mean, he just beat him glove side. Just I don't know. It was just nasty. It was just a nasty goal. It's a like Hawkins level kind of thing.
It really was. It was just good to see. Like that was just it was a positive out of a really rough weekend and a rough stretch of games to see him be able to do that. Seider getting his 7th of the season. And like Trav said in the first half of the show, just great at cleaning up pucks around the net. And that's exactly what he did there. And he kept his composure, found the back of the net. And I mean, that goal right there was the biggest one of the game because it just ended this 3-game skid of no goals for Grand Rapids. And who would have thought the unsung hero would be Gabriel Seeger? Like, that's not what you had it written up as, but 7 goals in the season for Sieg so far, man. Underrated player right now in this lineup that's doing a lot of things right, playing the center position really, really well in his first season in the pros here. And just a guy I don't think we talk about enough overall because he's usually buried in the lineup. But I was really impressed with his play Friday night and again Saturday night.
He seems to pop off in like weird times for this team, where he's just like all of a sudden he's like got 2 goals, and it's like, wait, what? In one game that he had a couple of weeks back. So it's just good to get the monkey off the team's back here, getting the goal, because that's the longest we've ever been shut out in team history. So. And we've been paying attention a little bit more to the faceoffs, and he's really good at the faceoff dot too. So, I mean, it's good overall play
really good at it.
on that end, which he was good in college too. So, I mean, it's not anything that we shouldn't be expecting out of Seeger. And I think he's playing the right spot in the lineup as well, being in the third line, right in that role is where he needs to be at this point after the first year of college.
Yeah, I mean, when you're going through a stretch like this, depth scoring is sometimes what you need to get back on the horse, and that's what they got in this game. But also, we talk about defensive scoring and kind of the lack thereof with Grand Rapids lately, and you look at the assists in this game. First goal, Tuomisto gets an assist. Second goal, Vollander gets an assist. Third goal, Rafferty and Tuomisto get an assist. It was nice to see some defensive points in this game. Shocked to see Shai Buyam kept off the score sheet, honestly, in this one. I thought he played a decent game overall in this, but I'd like to see the defenseman finding the back of the net, but hey, I'll take the assists to start off to get off the skid if that's what it takes, right? But defensively, when we're, it's been talked about a lot where we feel like, and the Griffins also feel like they have defensemen that are capable of producing points. I noticed something over the weekend, and maybe you picked up on it or not. When we see defensive scoring, as in finding the back of the net, it was a lot of the times them jumping up into the play. I don't see our defensemen doing that very often anymore. Maybe it's just the opportunity's not there and I'd have to dive into it way more, but I can't think of a time recently where I've seen any of our defensemen down along the boards or even behind the net, which if you have a defenseman down there, you're kind of wondering what's going on, but I just haven't seen that confidence to jump up into the play. You see a lot of shots from the point, which either go wide or it gets a scramble in front, or you just see the dump and chase.
Yeah.
Is it time to see some of these guys start activating a little bit? Because we know William Vollander up close is nasty. He's lethal when he's up close to the net, which is crazy for a defenseman. Maybe he is playing the wrong role. Who knows? But at the same time, like we've seen it in practice, we've seen it in game. When he activates and goes in, he's really good. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just taking a really small sample size, but I noticed it Friday. I really noticed it Saturday. I'm just not seeing defensemen jumping up into the play. I mean, hell, I remember Travis when I was last in Toledo. We're watching Chaz Redekop skating into the zone, and he's down around the net. We're both sitting here going, what is he doing? But it was producing scoring chances. Maybe we're missing something here, and maybe we need to start seeing more of that out of the defense. And maybe it's just not being allowed to set up well enough for them to do that. I don't know. I'm not a defenseman. I can't speak to it. But it's just something I noticed.
I mean, it's something that I've been noticing because it's been something that I've been pounding the table for the last like 3 or 4 weeks, that our defensemen just are not getting the offensive points except for Buyam. Like, they just need to, if you can get that scoring from the defense, if you can get the setups like the assists too, you're taking pressure off the forwards. You're going to press more towards that defense over to the top of the blue line, and they're going to make mistakes. I mean, maybe they're just afraid of the breakaways. Maybe they're afraid of nobody having their back, of taking their place on the ice. I don't know. It just, last year you saw Albert jump in. You saw Simon go end to end with it quite a bit. I feel like a lot of times this year it's just like they go over to the blue line, they dump it in. It's a change.
2 things I'll hit on that. One, yes, Buyam does get points, but Antti Tuomisto is at 19 points, currently 6th on the team in points. He gets his flowers where they're deserved, dang it. So
Fair.
make sure he gets
As he
his
should.
credit there. But also, if they're worried about the breakaway, why? Look at the goaltenders that we have. They're all pretty darn good at the breakaway stops, meaning Sebastian Cossa especially. He's had plenty of practice with that, especially down in Toledo. Those odd man rushes and those breakaways happened a lot when those defensemen activated, but he stood his ground. And again, it's just that nervousness, that uncertainty that they're playing with that we talked about in the first half of the show. It's just another example of where that kind of shows in their play.
I want to throw something out.
What you got?
You talk about when to get in the defense involved more.
Yep.
Let's get some of these guys to the net. A little more blue collar, a little more in your face, not so much playmaking. I mean, like, Christ, Seager's what? 6'4". Gettinger's not small by
Oh, he's
any
tall.
means.
He
Yeah,
makes me
he's
feel
very
short.
He's big. Johannes, big. Watson, big. Shine plays a lot bigger than what his size is. You know, like, I think we got to just get pucks to the net and just crash the net. Like, Seager, I mean, look at what Seager does when there's rebounds. He scores most of his goals within, like, 5-10 feet of the crease. Like, I think we just got to get the defense to get the pucks through and just crash the net. Pick up rebounds. I'm not saying it's every player, but if you're going to, it's hard to score from the point. Generally, you're going to score on rebounds. But if you don't have any presence in front of the net, what good is it for defensemen to be shooting the puck to begin with? I mean, let's be real. The only guy that's got like a big bomb from the point that could probably beat goaltenders on a consistent basis if he can hit the net is 2-0.
100%. And
Like, I don't think
make a good point there.
like I don't see Wally like blowing many past the goaltender. He had the one a couple weeks ago where he beat the goalie glove side from damn near on the blue line. But
Yes, that was a beauty.
Like Booyam doesn't have a goalie yet this year.
Which is crazy to me.
Like there comes a point where it's like, okay, we got, and I think about Watson, right? Like a lot of, you know, blue collar. He always used to talk about that when he was down here. And yeah, and we talked about this earlier in the Toledo episode we just recorded. They don't have that like super high end elite goal scorer on this team, which is hard to find in the American League, I think. Because if you're a really good goal scorer, chances are you're going to end up in the NHL at some point. I could be completely off the rails here, but
no,
again,
you're spot on there. It is hard to have that prolific goal scorer on a team, and if you do find one, they're not there for very long.
Like, I mean, you look at this team right now, 16 goals is leading, or 17 goals is leading the team. I mean, I just think you got to find them in different ways. And if you're not finding them with the picking corners and making these cross ice plays, dumb it down a little bit. Pucks on net, crash the net, pick up the change. Like, crash the net. That's where, like, I feel like if you get that identity line, like we were talking about in the first half of the show, like, those guys can all get to the net. Like, they're not going to be out there scoring highlight reel goals. Sometimes you need garbage goals to just kind of get the momentum. Like, yeah, I just feel like if you want to get your defense involved, they got to get pucks through. But you're not going to score a ton of goals from distance like that. I don't think they really have the guys for that.
I feel like that's how we get scored on all the time, though, is those shots coming from the point are always deflections, rebounds up, and that's how we get scored on. It's like nothing that Cossa or Husso or Campbell can do. It's just deflected goal, you know?
And where are those guys at?
Right, like
right in front of the net.
And we're just not doing it. Like, we're just not copying the success that other teams are having against us, and we're not stopping it either.
Blocking them either. We've faced some teams lately that have been elite shot blocking teams at this point, which is insane.
I don't care if the puck's going 2 feet wide. Just get it through the first line of defense. Like, get it through. If you have enough bodies in front of the net, get a stick on it, gets redirected, could go in, could go to another guy's stick. You got to get pucks through and crash the net for rebounds. I think that's they got to get a spark from somewhere. And I think just dumbing it down and getting pucks through and crashing the net. I mean, good things happen when you go to the net. Like, I think they just need to simplify a little bit.
I think you're right. I think they need to simplify a lot of things, and we'll get to the special teams here in a moment. But I like where your head's at there, especially if it's going wide. Let it hit the boards. I mean, especially if you're at home. Van Andel's got some lively boards. It's not Joe Louis style, but heck, let's get some of those crazy bounces off the wall that pop back out front and see what happens with them. But yeah, you need some big guys going to the net there. And I guess when I said earlier in the episode, you lose a guy like Elmer and you're like, does that really make that big of a difference out front? But that's a big body that you lost there that played a lot of net front time as he started to really find his game this year. And you got to try to replicate that. And I think that also goes back to your point, Trav, when you talk about a guy in Toledo doing well, who's been called up, sent back down, and Carson Bantle, big body that you could send to the net. It's the recipe's there. They just got to put the ingredients in. And I don't think we're doing that right now. But let's just address the elephant in the room, because like you said in this game, special teams lost us this game. No, Nick, there's not an elephant behind you, as shocking as that is. The special teams blew it in this game, and usually we're talking about a pretty solid penalty kill for the Grand Rapids Griffins, and in the past few games, it's been rough, but the power play, God, I just feel like I'm beating a dead horse here when it comes to talking about the power play on this show. Just, again, not delivering anywhere near the pace that they should be on this team.
0 for 13 in the last 4 games.
In 3 of those, we were shut out.
0 for 13.
Yeah.
And it's not even like the one game 0 for 2, 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 3. So it's not even like we weren't getting the opportunities. The opportunities are there.
Yeah, if it was a bunch of 0 for 1s or something like that,
Yeah,
okay, sure. Like that, whatever.
Maybe.
0 for 3, 0 for 4, like this. And then you have the PK on the other side, and this game going 3 for 5. Like, that was the most frustrating part, because we're not used to that. And it's not like we're missing that many big penalty killers when you're talking about guys we're missing. Besides, I mean, Elmer was killing penalties, sure.
Shine.
But, I mean, he was back this weekend. Like, that's the thing. He's one of the best penalty killers in the American League. And Milwaukee doesn't have that great of a power play. Even it was mentioned on the broadcast, they are not the best power play in the league by any means. And they ripped us apart in this game.
The last 4 games I got penalty kills: 0 for 3, 1 for 3, 4 for 5, 2 for 5.
That's rough.
Combined of 7 for 16. That's 44%. That's and I rounded up because it was 43.75. So I rounded up to 44. All right. The bottom of the league is Iowa at 70%. 44% is just over those 4 game span. Just can't be happening. I don't know.
Milwaukee went 4 for 10 this weekend on the power play.
Yeah, special teams played a huge factor in this weekend. If you can't stop them and you can't score them, like, you're gonna end up with an L.
It's got to drive you guys nuts watching Toledo and then go back and watch this power play.
It just pisses me off.
It was a nice refresher.
When you go from watching Detroit and Toledo light it up in the power play, and then we sit here just going,
what are we
like,
doing?
come on, coaches, can we take pieces of each one and create something here? Like, again, there was after we said something about it once in post game, we saw the next power play, next night, a few power plays, and we saw movement. We're back to this stagnant, waiting for the puck BS that Grand Rapids is so good at doing every single game. I need to see movement out there. Detroit is lethal on the power play because the guys are constantly moving, drawing defenders out of position, maintaining puck possession, and getting pucks to the open guy, and then they rip it. Toledo, yeah, they've got some elite shooters at the ECHL level out there that really make it difficult for other teams. But again, they move the puck extremely well, and they're really good at settling things down at the blue line. I can't count how many times watching the little bit of Saturday's Toledo game that I watched where Hawk settles it down at the blue line. And I've complained for the past few episodes now that Griffins defensemen they're struggling to even hold the puck in at the blue line on the power play, let alone settle the play down. And if they're holding it in, it's a scramble to get the puck back in deep to try to do something.
I think they panic.
They can't set it up. No, you're panicking. They can't set it up. They can't slow it down. And there's no movement. Like, it's a recipe for disaster. And I'll tell you what, special teams results like this in the playoffs, this is a first round exit. Immediately.
look, I've been big on him this episode, but I just think about this guy. Take Seider and just put him in front of the goaltender. Like, just park him there. Old school Thomas Holmstrom. Park him there because he scores every goal within 5 feet of the freaking crease. Just park him in front of the net and work it down low, low to high, shot to the net, crash the net. Like,
we suggested this with Elmer Soderblom. And,
And we saw it some games, but at the same time, you could go back into all of our episodes. If we paid someone to find every moment, we said, park a big guy in front of the net in the power play.
work it down low.
You'd have a 30-minute video of us just saying those lines. But yet, we don't see it. And we're not coaches. We don't have the influence on that. But you can only watch a stagnant power play deliver no results for so long before you want to beat your head into the desk just screaming, why? Like, why? And then the PK, at least for most of the season, had been carrying the weight of a faulty power play and at least balancing things out and not letting other teams capitalize. But now we're seeing that fall off, and it's just, why? Why us? Why this time? Why is this happening? And I think it all boils back to the lack of creativity we're seeing with special teams right now. You can't run that same power play or the penalty kill play every single game and not expect a team to finally figure it out, especially a division rival that is going to be studying. They play you a lot. Like, they know what to expect. And again, Milwaukee's power play is not good, and they knew what to expect in this one and tore us apart.
It's honestly just baffling. Like you said, you watch how good Detroit's is, how good Toledo's is. And there's almost like kind of some similarities between the two to a point. Like,
sure,
you have your guys that have great shots, like your debrincats, you got Raymond, you got Larkin, you got Kane, you got seider. Toledo's got Smerrick, they got Spies on one side, Hawk on the other, Bliss in front. Like, what way can Grand Rapids figure out something to where, like, put a guy net front, figure out your flankers? Honestly, I would just run. If it was me, I would run 2-0 just for his ability to shoot the puck from the point as your first power play guy. Or if you even want to run 2 defensemen, put 2-0 and Booyam on the ice. Like, you don't have to run 4 forwards.
Which we've said this on an episode before, and then we saw 3 or 4 games with 2 defensemen right after that.
You don't have to do it.
And they had success, and we stopped doing it.
Remember a couple of years ago, Christ, the Panthers put 5 forwards on the ice. Literally.
I do remember that.
They had 5 forwards on the ice. They had Barkov, Verhaeghe, Reinhart, Huberdeau was still there, and there was one other guy up front. They put 5 forwards. A lot of teams run 4. You don't have to run 4. You can run 3 and 2.
There's no set rule that says you have to do it this way.
Right. Like, just mix it up a little bit here. Like,
be creative.
I have a creative solution.
Ooh.
So as long as the puck is in the offensive zone, we pull the goalie.
Oh, God.
And we Sergei Fedorov this.
That might be a bit excessive.
Hey,
I'll let you run that
we're
one past
0 for
Waddy next time
13.
you're there.
We got to do something.
your only problem there is they can ice the puck.
Correct.
Like, I sit here and look at this roster and try to figure out a way, right? Like, I would go first unit, Shine, Snively. Put your guy. I would go Shine, Snively with Seider. Seider can win faceoffs. When you start with a power play, where's the puck? Offensive zone, face-off zone. Offensive zone, face-off. And Seager's won a lot of. He's really good in the dot. You have guys that can shoot the puck and score. Seider can play net front. Put Booyam and 2-0 out there, and then your second unit can be a variety of Danielson with whoever.
Wallander and Brogan Rafferty as your defense.
Well, at that point, you probably run 4 forwards on the second unit and then you put
William.
Well, I'd put William on a first unit and run Wally on the second unit. I'd put Wally on the second unit running that at the umbrella, and I'd
If
put
you're running
2-0.
only one defenseman on the second unit, it's not Wallander.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's 2-0.
You think so? Because
Yeah.
Wallander can't hold the puck in at the freaking blue line. I'm
Well,
sorry. I don't
I'm
like to
just
call
going-
out guys directly, but I got to call that out. It's been bad. It's atrocious lately.
I just said that because when he was and this again is me being partial, basically part-time with Grand Rapids. When he came over from Sweden, he was a really offensive defenseman for U20 scoring over there, U22 scoring. So that's why I kind of...
Where did it go?
That makes sense.
If you want Rafferty in that position, put him there. I don't really care. If you want to put Wally and Rafferty there, put him there. I don't really care. I'm just saying you got to figure out something different. And I really think it's working the puck down low and then out for a shot and crash the net. They got to do something different.
And again, when we saw them roll 2 defensemen on the power play unit for those 3 or 4 games, it was 2 defensemen on both units. And I like what you said. You don't have to do it on both. You can have a variety. You can make it work. You don't have to copy paste and do the same thing for each unit. You can have them doing different things. You really can. And again, it's just creativity. I just need to see more of it. And that's how you're going to get out of these funks. You can't go 0 for 3 on the power play in a game of 3 for 5 and let the other team go 3 for 5 and expect to get out of your drought. That's just not how this works.
Like you have Becker playing power play minutes, right?
Yep.
He's got 3 goals this year. Seager's got 7. Just as an example. Like, put the guys on the ice that are scoring. Like,
Oh, that was hard for
I don't
3
know.
games.
well, I get that, but put guys out there that have scored. I'm just like, you got to find a spark.
This power play for the league, we're 24th in the league. You add the
And I think heading into shortly before the break, we were 10th.
it fell, and overall you're at 99.8 for power play penalty kill combined. So you're still close to that 100, but
What's their
that's
percentage on the power play, though?
17.3.
Yeah, you got to be like 20, 22.
24 is Charlotte. And I might try to see if I can find some of their games this weekend and just see what they're doing. And their penalty kill is good too. Charlotte's penalty kill is great too. It's first in the league, 86.7.
And Charlotte
Yeah.
just signed Yessi Pugliarvi today.
They did.
Grand Rapids is 82.5. We're 15th in the league.
So that
Even
didn't
if
take
you're-
as much of a drop, but still.
Even
This
if
is
you're
2
like,
years. This is 2 years though. We're talking special teams.
even if you're 15th and 15th, middle of the pack,
Sure.
you're in good shape with both of them.
And Nick, it's not 2 years we've been talking special teams. It's 2 years we're talking power play. Like penalty kill hasn't been bad. It's had its moments and they get into ruts and they usually figure it out.
Fair.
It's power play. We've talked power play consistently for two to three seasons straight with this team, but 2 seasons with the same coach running the same power play. Where I think at the end of the discussion, it's always be creative. Like just be creative. And Steph came from a league that was high scoring and he was good in the power play and all this stuff. Like he knew how to do all that. Just can't seem to replicate it in the American League. And God, is it frustrating.
Oh, I'm sure it's frustrating for him too, right? Like
It's gotta be. Like,
You know-
I'd hope it is. If it's not, then I've got questions.
to ask the tough question of like, hey, like what's got to change? Is it working at low to high, crashing the net? Like does something have to change? Like sometimes you got to ask that tough question, right? Like
There's some tough questions that need to be asked at this point if they can't
I'm
pull
just
themselves
saying.
out of this streak. Let's be real. And that's
do you need Brandon Hawkins?
It's unfortunately part of our job when we signed on to do this. And again, nothing that we've said is a direct call out to any player specifically. Like they can get out of this. The season is not over, as I've said countless times throughout this episode. The season's not over, but they do have to figure things out here pretty quick because, as is always in the AHL Central Division, it's getting tight. These teams are good. This is one of the most difficult divisions in the American Hockey League. And people say that, or when I say that, they laugh and go, yeah, you don't have teams up like that blow out crazy numbers like Hershey. Yeah, it's because these guys play each other so darn much in the season. Like, look how many times we play Rockford. Like, things can get close really quick here. And I know, Nick, you mentioned earlier in the episode about the upcoming schedule this weekend with Iowa, and there's some chances here coming up. And I said the same thing when we had Manitoba come to town. Like, this could be a good weekend. Bottom of the barrel in the division, and we lost both games.
You're a curse.
They're trap games, and the Griffins have to go into this with the mentality that they are playing the Texas Stars in each of these games. They're playing the top team in the division, and they need to go out there and blow the doors down, not just because, we need to win, and not just because you can't treat these teams at the bottom of the division lightly. Their assistant coach is our old head coach. You got to blow the doors off. You have to.
You know what's crazy?
What?
Chicago has 2 in hand, and they're 4 points behind you for second place.
Oh, we're not panicking. Not panicking.
Look, I'm just going to say this, Nick. I don't think you need to win your division to make a playoff run. I'm just saying.
You do not.
I agree. But
all you have to do is get in the tournament.
correct.
And a lot of teams in the American League do.
Participation trophies.
Right?
I think the thing that bothers me though is like this team's mentality this year, and I might just, we're kind of workshopping this idea, is like we've been at the top, right? Like Waddy has this thing that like we're at the top, the target's on our back, but what did we do to earn this top spot? Like we've won some games, right? In the beginning of the season, we kept some good point streaks together. We didn't win the division last year. We're not the top dog. These guys need to go out and still prove it every night, and I just don't feel like that's what's happening. Like, we're like, hey, we're at the top. We've got some points. We've got a cushion. Like, hey, let's go out there. Like, I think that's kind of where I'm like, my mentality is like, that's what I'm seeing out there. And now that we're behind in the standings, it's like, guys, like, wake up. We haven't earned anything.
Behind in the standings, you're second.
We're second in the stand. Okay, but we're still 4 points away from Chicago. Or Chicago's 4 points away from us.
And they've got 2 in hand. So points percentage wise, they're almost identical.
Right. Like this division.
I see where he's coming from. I really do.
This division's so close. It's so tight, and that's why I said 2 weeks ago, like we gotta get some of these games. Like the Moose weekend, we should have gotten those. This Texas series is going to be huge at the end of the month. Like they've been hot. They've been coming from behind, winning. Like it's just we haven't earned that top spot for people to like put that target on. I feel like we're coasting, and yeah, we had some bad games with the sickness. I get that, but overall, when you look at it, when you take a step back and you look December, January, February, this team's not as good as what we perceive.
I'm gonna tell you this, Nick, and maybe this will make you feel a little bit better. When the Walleye went to the finals in 18-19, I don't think anybody thought they were going to go on a run. Like, it can just turn out of nowhere. Like, that's the one thing, like, I know right now it's a struggle, but, like, you just got to get hot at the right time. Like,
right.
And if they go cold and they backdoor in, if they get hot in April, you'll be happy.
It's get hot at the right time. And I could see that happening for us. I don't want to say it's not going to happen for us, but to see this overall of, like, we were real good at the beginning of the season, and then we've laid an egg for 3 months, and this month's not over. Like I'm exaggerating for this month because it's a short month. We're 10 days in and out of the 28, and we've still got 8 games left. Like I feel there's not much. I don't know. At the same point, I don't feel like there's much more season left either, though. There's March and then April.
It's 27 games remaining. You've played 45.
So
you're at about hole 12, 13 right now.
They've got to start. Like this is the time where they got to start. I feel like getting their groove, getting hot, getting a little bit of a streak, like getting some points together, getting some wins together. And I just broke down the series of just wins, losses. I didn't go into all the overtimes and all that crazy stuff. Just did they win? Did they lose? Did they win? Did they lose? So like. They've got to start getting points. They've got to start playing with some urgency. They can't just take the lead that they had because we could end up being in that weird wild card spot, right? Where it's best of 2. And you know how fun those are.
Or best of 3.
Or yeah, best of 3. Best of 3, you know how fun those are. Like that at that point it's anybody's game. So that's where my concern is, and I think that's kind of my mentality behind it, and my psyche behind it is that I just don't feel like this team is gelled and they're together, and we're still talking about power play and penalty kill or power play throughout the season. And we're talking about guys that are on long cold streaks and then they get hot for a little bit and then back on cold streaks again. It's just the one thing that's been consistent is goaltending. Honestly, the goaltending has been fantastic throughout the entire season.
That can carry you a long way if you find some offense.
Yeah,
That's true.
Where is?
I know you're.
It wasn't here this weekend.
I know. I'm just saying.
To
Like,
go 3 straight, that's nuts. Like,
it happens, man. I mean, teams go cold.
Hadn't happened in this entire team history.
Well, hey, there's a first for everything.
Yeah,
It's true.
It's not a good first to have.
Oh well. All you can do now is look back and laugh on it and hope that they respond. That's what we'll
Hopefully.
be looking for these next few games.
I really think the big wild card here is ammo. I think
We
was
do
like,
need some more ammunition. Like, we need some more firepower.
I can't put it all on one guy, man. I can't.
I just think when he was in the lineup, they had such a vibe about him.
They did.
You know, I think, and it's hard, man. You lose a guy that's 15 points in 19 games and 9 goals. Like, that's a big vibe, man. Like, it's just what it is.
Yeah, I still can't put it all on one guy, but there is a lot of positives that will come down the line too near the end of the season as well. When you look at some of the prospects that'll end up landing here, like this team will get.
Though? Like, you could potentially end up with just one.
You could, but I don't think that'll happen. But at the same time, everyone talks about those positives coming, but you do have to remember one thing too, is like we mentioned, Milwaukee has 7 guys called up. Nashville's not making the playoffs. They'll get those guys back. Chicago's not making the playoffs. Rockford's going to get guys back. Texas, yeah, they're screwed. Dallas is making the playoffs. But the Wolves, I mean, Carolina will make the playoffs, but that relationship's more hot and cold than our offense. So, like, you can't count on those guys. You just hope that the guys we get are better. But at the same time, they should get some good pieces. But I'm not going to put this all on when Amadeus Lombardi returns or if Elmer Soderblom returned, which I don't think he is, that it's going to solve the problems. They've got to find the problem. They've got to find the solution within.
Yeah.
They really do.
Well, yeah,
And
absolutely. I'm just saying, I think, well, ammo's part of the solution from within because he's going to be here. But again, you know, like, look at what we just said about Toledo when we recorded Toledo, what Lewandowski does to a whole lineup.
It's true, but that lineup is also full of goal scorers right now, and we don't have a prolific goal scorer. So
I'm just
it
saying,
makes a difference.
It might help more than you could imagine.
Well, and the other thing is we're getting ready to go into 4 nations. Nobody got dropped.
I told you that was going to happen. I told you. You expected people to get dropped, but I told you it wasn't going to happen.
Well, here's the weird thing: is Elmer's not on the lineup, and neither is Casper. They're not on the Red Wings roster at the moment. Is what I saw this morning through Discord. I don't think Casper will be coming down. It would be a huge help for the next 2 weeks, but
them two are getting a vacation 2 weeks, man. They got
what I would
playoff.
guess.
They got a playoff push to prepare for.
Casper for sure would just take the 2 weeks off, but Elmer,
I wouldn't send Elmer back down here with how he's playing
for 2 weeks. Keep him.
No.
Keep him.
You risk
going.
injury.
Keep him fresh, yeah.
You risk injury.
You risk injury either route. Playing games or not playing games.
I think
As long as he doesn't do something stupid on vacation, but as long as he stays
you got more
fresh.
risk with Larkin and Raymond playing in the 4 nations than you do Elmer sitting on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, but we're not talking about Raymond or Larkin being sent down.
I know, but I'm just saying for injury's sake, dude. Like, coming down here, you got a higher chance of getting hurt.
Weird. So when you look at the Red Wings roster on the NHL.com roster, yes, Marco Casper and Elmer Soderblom are not on there, but William Lagesson is. So I wouldn't read into that anything. Because if anyone's getting sent down, it's Laggy. Like, let's be real. He hasn't played in how long?
Yeah, like a month.
Yeah, I hate it so much. So I wouldn't read anything into that. I know Red Wings fans are. Again, I don't think they get sent down for this break. And I don't believe there's a roster freeze for the break because I believe teams are still able to make trades during this break, which is crazy. Imagine being on vacation, just get traded. But yeah, I don't see him getting sent back down. And again, the Griffins have to find the solution within. We've seen them come out of holes before. We've seen them take a roster that wasn't gelled at all, go into Christmas break and come out and go on an absolute tear. If there's a head coach I trust to get him out of this, it is Dan Watson. I do think they will figure it out, but this stretch of games is going to be very interesting, and the pressure on the boys is going to be amped up to another level because they know they need to get out of this stretch. You got Springfield on Wednesday at home, which is great. Then you go on the road to Iowa, then you come back home, you play Lehigh Valley. It's going to be an interesting stretch. And again, the season's not over, but we do need to see better results, right? So that's really all I have for this one. I don't have anything else to add. Again, this is a very different episode from us, but this is a very different circumstances with the results we've seen in these last 4 games. And I couldn't sit here and completely beat the table saying we're doing great and everything, because there's a lot of bad that needs to be fixed, but there's time to fix it. And you can't go fix it all at once, but hopefully you can address some key parts of it during this time. But I think that is where I'll end the episode this week there, because we could get off on another tangent on something else in this team for another half hour, and I don't want to edit that tonight. So with that, thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Hockeytown West podcast. As always, thank you to our sponsors, DraftKings and Everything Hockey Clothing Company. Make sure you head over to everythinghockey.com, use code WEST, saves a few bucks on your order and helps support the show. But of course, if you really want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. Join the patrons over there who have already supported the show, and that list of people is...
We've got Claire Boughton, John in Florida, Elaine Grace, Griffin, Randy Zick, Derek Sleazer, Lori, Allen, and Michael Asante.
Thank you all for subscribing. And if you want to join them and achieve my goal of making that list so hard for Nick to read during the end of an episode, he's got to do 2 takes. Head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. Check out the tiers, join the show, or join all the supporters over there. And thank you again to all those who have, and keep an eye out over there, because I think we're talking about doing some giveaways and stuff soon. And I know our branded hats are coming soon for everybody as well. So stay tuned to that. Until we speak again, everybody have a fantastic week. Stay safe out there with the snowstorm coming into West Michigan this week. I'm so excited about it. Not at all. But everybody stay safe. Have a good one. And go Griffins. Go Walleye.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod, and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy, and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.